Welcome back, everyone, to this Sales Hacker Masterclass with the one and only Rhino Heroes. Ryan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Look at people pile in. And if you've never been to a Sales Hacker webinar before, you did it. This is the first step to a wild journey. There's lots of other things that they do all the time. I'm plugging like this. It's like I work for Sales Hacker.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being. I'm really excited for this too. So Ryan is going to share his best tips, tricks, secrets to social selling. I got a preview of the content yesterday. I'm really excited to learn how reps can build their personal brand, sharing content that people actually really want to see, and how to get crazy reply rates using social media. So I know this is going to be really interesting, really actionable. And Ryan is a natural entertainer, so this is going to be a good time.
A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. Hey, everyone in chat, if you want to, tell us where you're from. Tell us three things you can do. Either tell us where you're from, tell us your birthday, or tell us the last four digits of your social security number. All right, don't do that. That one's a joke. Don't actually do that one. Cool. Oh, Portland, Oregon. That's cool. I'm coming from New Hampshire, by the way. And it's like literally like it was -3 this morning when I woke up. It was so cold. So, whoa, someone from Sweden. That's cool. I wish I could do the Swedish accent, but I don't know how to do it very well. So cool. All right, we're gonna kind of jump in and get started on stuff while you guys are piling in and getting things ready. A little backstory. So a couple years ago, we started hiring reps at Lead IQ, and we want them to be very active on social. Oh, one last thing. If you have questions, use the Q&A feature in Zoom, not chat, because chat is this is where the mob is, right? We're yelling things into chat and doing stuff. If you're angry about something I say, I want you to type it in all caps though, so I know that there's anger there. So the couple things, obviously, Sam, too, everything's being recorded. So
absolutely. If you can't take notes fast enough, we've got you covered.
Wow, 30 degrees in Jersey, a balmy 30 degrees, but I guess there's a giant snowstorm coming there. So that's kind of cool. I think we're gonna get that too. So what I want to do today is I want to give you guys the same training session that I do internally with our reps to get them to build their brand online. Now, here's the deal. As being part of this, you can't disclose our secrets to other people, okay? This is it. You got to we're going to tell you some secrets today. I don't want you going and snitching us out when you see what we're doing and how we're engineering stuff online. But we started doing a heavy social selling program about early 2018. We think you had been around for a couple of years, and I basically was gating everything. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I was a BDR for years. I was a team lead. I ran training for over 90 reps. I need to just start putting this stuff out in the masses and telling people in public. And I'm going to talk about some of the marketing tricks that I do to apply my social selling and how our reps do it to get opportunities. So as you run into things and have questions, feel free to pipe in. Now, there's going to be some marketing stuff here, but I want you to wear it and think about it as for sales goggles a little bit. So let's jump in. Obviously, I had a terrible haircut in this picture, which is why I put this in. But I post on social about once a week. So if you want to see some examples of posting, you can hit up my my channel. I call it a channel. It's a freaking LinkedIn thing. I don't know why I'm calling it that. But you can go to my profile. I just plugged this thing last second to get some late stragglers in. So if you came in from that, shout out to you in chat. You can say it, and that's cool. So a couple things you're going to learn today. You're going to learn how to get your reps to be loved online. Now, the reason that this is important is most people think when you talk about social selling, it's like commenting on your prospect's post, adding them, building LinkedIn Sales Navigator list, and like prospecting people and engaging, kind of researching. That stuff's really important, and we are going to tackle some of that. But what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to get you all to be armed with learning how to build outbound pipeline through inbound means while you're doing stuff on social. So that's kind of a big aspect of this. We're going to talk about how you can build your individual brands online. And the biggest reason that we're going to tackle this is because everyone here probably has 9 or 10 different competitors that all do the same thing that you do, right? Like all you probably have competitors, right? In chat, you could be like, yeah, I got competitors all over the place. What we're going to do is the biggest differentiator when you prospect today is you. The things that your reps have or you in general have is something that you can do to differentiate in the market. Your experiences, no one grows up and says, boy, I can't wait to work in sales. You kind of accidentally fall into it, right? So we want to take the backgrounds that we all have and figure out how to apply those backgrounds into our social lives on social, not social like, come on, I don't mean like going to the clubs on the weekend. I see you there, Gary. I assume there's a guy named Gary in our in our attendee list. I'll have to check after. Maybe I'm just making that up. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to teach you guys how to use social selling and cold email and cold calling, how to sync those things together, an omni-channel approach. And we're going to talk about how we get double-digit reply rates using social media, like what formula we use in our messaging, all that stuff. It's going to be wild. Crazy things are going to happen. Sam, let's not get too emotional here for me, right? If I start crying, I need you to come in and save me, okay?
Okay, deal.
All right. Lots of things are going to happen. So we're going to start with starting from zero. I'm going to assume that most people that are in here today don't have an audience online on social. By the way, most of the stuff we're going to be talking about today will be focused on LinkedIn. But if your audience is on a different channel, like maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's Twitter, maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's MySpace. I mean, that's a really weird group to go after at this point. But if you're going after those people, a lot of the same concepts you could still transpose over to those platforms as well. So shout out to MySpace. Yeah, I see Anthony over there, MySpace Tom. We all know that we all want to be friends with Tom. If you don't know what MySpace is, oh my God, I'm old. Cool reference, right? All right. So we're going to start, when you don't have an audience, you want to start by participating in content. And the easiest reason to do this is because if you participate in content, you'll start to get a feel about, like, you'll consume some content and see what other people are doing in your space and get ideas for yourself. The second reason is you can offer opinions to people that might be your prospects. And that's kind of a magical part about this. So I'll give you an example. This is someone that Jeremy Levy and our team was trying to prospect into, named Amanda Russell. She works at Gather Technologies. Amanda, if you're in this podcast, what's up? I don't even know if it turned into an op or not at this point. I'm sure at some point we heard back from Amanda. But Amanda wrote, quick poll, what's the best sales book you've read recently? And when they did this, it's funny, it's not a poll because it's, you have to, there is a poll feature you can do on LinkedIn too, but people come in and pile and offer their opinions. And you can actually just do low-hanging fruit stuff like this. You're probably reading books. You probably have things that you've seen or looked at that you've appreciated. That's a good move to do this. It's an easy crawl thing you can do. Find things that you can participate in. The scariest part about doing social is you have to give your opinion. So here's a question for you. And thank you for putting this up, Sam. How often do you post on LinkedIn? I just want to see what the people are doing here. We're getting a lot of responses. It's shooting up. Look at this. Wow, everyone's doing it. This is crazy. How long do we run the poll, Sam? What's the rule? What's best practice?
Usually a minute or two.
Okay.
But we're getting them, yeah, they're rolling in fast.
Wow, look at this. This is crazy. So most people are actually falling into that rarely category. And I get it. By the way, the other thing I wanted to talk about too is what we're going to teach you here today is we're going to try and teach you guys to not just post stuff that your company's doing, because that kind of doesn't count. That's not what I'm talking about here. Like, I have to do that sometimes because I work at Lead IQ and my role now is more in marketing and evangelism and trying to celebrate the things that our users are doing, our customers and stuff. But when you're putting stuff out online, it's got to be from you, from the heart, from your experiences, your unique conversations with people. So our goal here, everyone that's listening, LinkedIn's algorithm is actually, I'm going to end the poll. Is that cool? So LinkedIn's algorithm is actually favored to get you to stay on LinkedIn. And the reason is, how does LinkedIn make money? Well, you apply for jobs on LinkedIn, you pay per applicant. You click on ads on LinkedIn, you pay per click. If you engage and interact with content on LinkedIn, they get more data about things that you're interested in and can run better ads. If you're a recruiter and you want people to be on LinkedIn every day and then you want to keep their information updated, you got to be on LinkedIn. So most of the things that you're going to want to do on LinkedIn, you're going to want to keep it on LinkedIn. That's where you want to keep your interactions. Very rarely should you post links. Right before this webinar, I posted a link to this webinar, so I probably look like a huge jerk and a hypocrite. But yeah, that's what the results ended up being, by the way, 32% post rarely. If you come out of this program, I'm hoping that you can post. We should get you posting at least once a week. My rule of thumb is don't go 6 days without posting. If you go 6 days, even if you go on vacation, figure out an oldie or goodie or something that you can put out there to do stuff. So, by the way, if you have questions, use the Q&A feature and we can get to your questions for you. So if I'm looking here, one more thing, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to reshare my screen without the optimize for video clip, so it's less blurry. So my apologies there on that end. I didn't mean to do that. Let's do that. All right, here we go. Everything's good. You can see it, Sam? We're good? All right,
beautiful.
Cool. Okay, so here's another example too. Like, you can find random things to interact with. Jeremy here was at a conference, saw somebody, this is on an employee at Gong's post. Jeremy would go and hit see the Gong t-shirt and be like, oh, nice subliminal advertising. Like you can just do little participation things to be part of it. And here's why it's important. If Jeremy keeps commenting on posts from Jeremy Levier to the person that he's interacting with, they're going to actually start recognizing his name. If they start recognizing his name, what do you think happens? Well, when I get a cold email from somebody on my phone, what do I see? I see the person, where the cold email is from. In the preview badge, I see the name, I see the first couple sentences, and I see the subject. If I recognize the name, I'm more likely to click in. And we actually did a study here at LeadIQ where I wrote emails as John Mazza, who's now on our marketing team, but he was the SDR at the time, and he wrote emails as me. And we actually wrote, we just swapped the same prospecting that we do. And I had a much higher response rate. And I didn't put my title or anything, but I had a bigger following at the time on social than Mazza did. And we actually found that the reply rates were almost double when you have a recognizable name because you get higher open rates on your emails. I had an 84% open rate on the prospecting off my account versus Mazza's open rates were close to around 50 to 60, which they're both really good, by the way. If you want some tips on subs plans, we can get to that later. But that's kind of like how we got to like get some really good results and stuff. So someone asked, you said don't go 6 days without posting. Is there a way or external tool that we can use to schedule posts on LinkedIn? I actually don't. I don't use an external tool, and that's because as a prospector or a sales rep, you should start your prospecting on LinkedIn. That's the best way for you to have success here. If you start your prospecting on LinkedIn, you're going to be more likely to talk about your prospects and your outreach instead of talking about yourself, which will yield higher response rates. And if you're building out sequences and trying to think of that omni-channel approach, you can kind of set up different steps to bring up the specialization that you did in that first touch. So that's kind of my answer for that. You can use tools. I think that like what I see is when companies enable and buy tools a lot of the time, they just end up shooting out and posting company stuff. Now, there are other things you can do each day. So another question is, how much time each day do you spend trying to get your name to become recognizable and memorable to your prospects? Here's my rule. You should block off 30 minutes a week to just think about what you can put out on social. And I'll go through how you can come up with content and stuff in a little bit. So let's get there. What a transition. Woo! I feel like a professional here. So I'm going to teach you guys some sneaky foundational stuff that marketers do all the time. And it's going to be really creepy. I need you guys to participate in chat for a second. When I see this ad for BMW that says the ultimate driving machine, what do you think of BMW? What do you think they're trying to get off here with their advertising? What are they trying to be? Fill in the blank. BMW is trying to be, just jump in and chat. Classy is what Christian said. Someone else, what are they trying to say when they're the ultimate driving machine? Hot, elegant. Let's get a little bit more focused on just the text. The best, yeah. Nori kind of nailed what I was trying to get to. Better, superior, the best, right? I thought someone said, Anthony said sleek, and I thought it said steak for a second. I was like, oh God. So here's the deal. BMW has gone to market trying to convince people that they are a luxury vehicle. And they are. But like there's so many cars out there that you can buy. If I buy a Ford, I don't think of Ford as a luxury vehicle, right? However, half the parts that are in a Ford are probably from the same manufacturing plants that are in a BMW, right? There's a whole thing here that they do. Let's do another one. This is Muhammad Ali. Now, people that don't know Muhammad Ali, what was he known for? You can jump in and chat here. Tough crowd. Yeah, there you go. Confident, boxing, civil rights, power, confidence. I mean, I think a lot of people used to say that he was the best, right? Yeah, look at the quotes. But I love the quotes. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, right? So Muhammad Ali was a individual person, huge, maybe one of the most recognizable athletes of his over 2 decades. Probably everybody knew who he was, right? Reason that Muhammad Ali was so well known is because Muhammad Ali would brand himself as the best. He did the same thing that BMW did. So what do these two brands have in common? Well, both of these brands are ruler brands. They both are trying to exude confidence. We all actually view ourselves as ruler brands at different points in our lives. So there's this old psychological thing that exists, and they're called brand archetypes. Psychologically, Carl Jung many years ago did cognitive studies and found that people like to categorize people. We categorize everybody. We categorize them as father figures, mother figures, all this stuff in psychology, right? What happened was in the 60s, all these ad agencies started hiring on-staff psychologists to analyze and come up with how do we manipulate customers into liking us. And what they found is that if you divvied up Carl Jung's archetypes that we do for different people and use it for brands, you can build a much loyal following. For example, if I go and put a post up on LinkedIn and I'm like, hey, everyone, I'm really awesome at prospecting. You should follow me. I'm the best. And then next week I put a video up on LinkedIn and it's really silly. You don't really have a common theme that you feel that's me and my brand, right? If you're building a brand on social, you want to stick to one brand archetype and you want to commit to that brand archetype with every post that you do. And here's the cool part. This brand archetype should also kind of spill over into your prospecting when you cold call and cold email. Now, you might be thinking, well, which archetype am I, right? We're going to go through each of these in a second. The problem is there is no wrong answer. The only thing that I recommend is look at what's happening in your market and what other people are doing and try and find an archetype that not everyone's doing. You'll stand out a lot more. And we're going to go through some real examples. So here's an example of each of these. The ruler of brands itself is the best. We just went over that. Muhammad Ali is a good example. The lover is all about intimacy, letting you in on secrets, looking really nice and dressing really nice and being like trying to make beautiful things and talk about intimacy, things that like you might get if you're in a close relationship with somebody. The rebel brand, there you go, sorry. The rebel brand is about changing the rules, challenging the status quo, doing something that's like, you know what I'm fed up with? This. If you're a rebel brand, you might go, slide into a diner, punch a jukebox, make music start. I see you out there, the Fonz. Shout out to the Fonz, by the way. Oh, cool. Someone said they have an interview with me that you're looking forward to recording. Nice. All right. So the sage is the smartest person in the room. This person is branding themselves as an expert. They talk about lessons they've learned, teaching moments, something I learned today. This is a very popular one that we see a lot on LinkedIn. You've probably seen posts where people are like, I learned a lesson today. Or they tell some long story about something and they're the student in it. The magician is about making dreams come true. When I say magic, what brand do you guys think of? Jump in chat really quick. What's a brand that's well known for being known as a magician? Disney. Everyone jumps in and says Disney. They create magical experiences. Their customer support says, have a magical time. You literally can do this. You want an example of an individual person that does a magician? A good example would be Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins literally goes to market telling people to believe in things they didn't know they could achieve, right? Another person that did the magician archetype, I don't think it was intentional, but it's a good example would be Martin Luther King Jr. He talked about making dreams come true. It was a big part of the brand. So that this is what I'm getting at. You can pick, if you pick one of these archetypes and make it your compass, you could put a different spin on this. I actually once did a podcast with someone talking about this, and they challenged me to come up with a one sentence value prop for each archetype. And I tried to do it on the fly. It was very difficult to do. I'm not going to recreate it, but that's a good exercise to say, like, what sounds the best, right? Protecting and nurturing is the caregiver. They care. Like a good example of this is Campbell Soup. You watch anyone ever remember that old Campbell Soup commercial where the kid's outside in the snow, he becomes this snowman, comes inside, sits down at the table, and then he melts and becomes a boy again? Like, that's like an example. The mom gives soup and kind of is the caregiver on that end. The explorer is an example of someone that's on an adventure. Think Indiana Jones. Think Land Rover, Jeep. Another one that we'll go into in a couple minutes is Indian Motorcycles. They're an explorer brand. They show that life's an adventure. They post that they're traveling. They talk about cool new experiences that they're trying. Experiments are also popular here. So if you see someone online, Gong does this a lot. They post a lot of stuff about studies on like experiences and stuff and experiments that they try. Outreach does this too very well, by the way. Like a lot of great A/B testing stuff that they used to do in the lab. The gesture is fun and entertaining. So their job is basically to entertain you. I actually, selfishly, I'm trying to be a gesture brand. I don't know if it's good or not. Sometimes I miss, but my whole MO is trying to find a way to inform you with entertainment. I call it infotainment. That's my cool slang term with the kids. So that's kind of my whole setup on this. There's different ways to do this. Another example would be Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Ben & Jerry's ice cream is a gesture brand. And then there's the simple and happy. That's innocent. The innocent brand, it breaks everything down to be really simple and happy. Just makes it really simple to understand. The hero is up for the challenge. A good example of this would be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't brand himself as the best. He branded himself as the hero. When the game's on the line, he wants the ball in his hand. Nike did this as well, by the way. The everyman is relatable and friendly. Think of like I don't know, Tim Allen on Home Improvement is what I was thinking of for a dated 90s reference. But for the younger people, think of an everyman brand. Ford would be a good example of this. Ford is trying to be that brand. Another one would be Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, this whole thing is like their logos, they have people with hard hats and America runs on Dunkin's. Like they're trying to be that everyman relatable person that isn't too up in this. By the way, do you guys see what I'm doing here though? I'm going through these examples. And as I go through these examples, I'm telling you about brands that we all see and are impressed by. Tesla, I think, is probably this. I think it might be the Sage. Their products are really good, but I think they're always trying to give you information about stuff and about future things that are happening here. Or it might be the Creator too. So the Creator is about building something. So what you want to do is I think Mr. Rogers is probably the everyman. He might have fit into the Sage too. What I would do here is you're going to want to pick one archetype. And of these archetypes, we should have done a poll for this. I wish I thought about this yesterday, but I didn't. Of these archetypes, you're going to try, what you want to do is use this archetype to guide you toward what kind of copy you write on a social post. What kind of copy do you write when you're commenting on something? Well, how do you want to be seen out there? I don't really like this, but a really good example. Yeah, Rogers is definitely the caregiver. That's a good call, Anthony, actually. Thank you. Like, I don't want to try and, there isn't a wrong answer here. The right thing is something that you feel. Here's an exercise you can do to pick your right brand archetype. Write down some of your favorite brands that you like. And then write down 3 or 4 adjectives. Do this for a bunch of these brands. And then write down 4 or 5 adjectives of how you want to be seen in the market. Bucket those into these 12 categories. And the 12 categories that you put it in, whatever one scores the most points, might be, assuming your competitors aren't doing it, do that. It's that simple. Marketers should do this too, but as an individual brand, it's okay for you to have a different archetype than your company. And a good example would be Jeremy Levier on our team is kind of a sage. A lot of the stuff that he's posting on social is about lessons he's learned prospecting. When I tell my stories on social, I usually make fun of myself and say I have a bad haircut, or like, yeah, I look like a Muppet. You know what I mean? I say some crap like that. So like, you can do whatever you want to fit into that, but the important thing is you want to be consistent. So yes, Greg was asking if this video will be sent out later. Of course it will. Yes. All right. So I'm going to prove to you this is not hippy dippy bullshit. Let's do something really, really fun. We're going to run a poll. You ready for this? Let's do this poll. I'm curious what this is going to be. Okay. Who do you listen to more often? Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, or Carly Rae Jepsen? I'm curious about who, which artist here is getting listened to the most. It'd be really controversial if this doesn't end up being the way I want it to be. But we're taking a risk.
Carly's not getting a lot of love here.
Carly is great, by the way. If you guys are looking for some jams on a Friday afternoon, but like to crank out some cold emails or something, you got to put on some Carly Rae, right? So we're seeing this come up in chat. Someone said none of the above. That's cool. I mean, you can be hip and not like any of these pop artists, and that's fine. But I'm going to talk about some of this stuff. It's totally cool. Of the 3, though, all right, so that's interesting. We're going to go into this in a second. So, but if of the 3, yeah, see, Carly Rae Jepsen's a pop artist from Canada. She's did like Call Me Maybe. She's got Good Time, a bunch of things like that. So, all right, let's end this poll. This is getting carried away. So, notice that Taylor Swift is dominating in this poll. So I'm going to share are the results sharing? Did you hit it? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they're sharing.
Okay. 56% of you said that you listen to Taylor Swift the most often. Now, Taylor Swift makes music and it's great. And she's hit a bunch of genres and all that stuff. But why was Taylor Swift able to do 3 different genres of music? Because Taylor Swift has made her first half of her career, or first third of her career was probably heavily leaning on doing a lot more stuff that was like super, super focused on country music. As she got older, she moved more and more toward pop music. And then now what she's been doing is she's actually shifting a little bit more toward that storyteller. The most recent couple of years, she's done more storyteller, singer-songwriter stuff. So if you go through these styles and stuff, and this isn't discrediting the other people too, but Taylor Swift as a singer, for example, probably can't sing as well as Katy Perry, but she's a great songwriter, right? Her product is good. But one of the reasons that Taylor Swift has a super, super, super fan base is because she is a lover brand. Taylor Swift is all about trying to be intimate. When she comes out with albums, She's literally reading stuff from her diary. She's telling you secrets about her life. There's a reason that Taylor Swift doesn't let us in on stuff that's happening, and all these stupid paparazzi people talk about Taylor Swift, and she like that you don't know what's going on, and then you go, everyone analyzes the lyrics she puts out in songs. Swifties know this stuff. So here's a good example of the Lover brand working. If you were a Lover brand sales rep, you would go and make gifts and do stuff for your prospects. Many years ago, back in 2016, Taylor Swift did a thing called Swiftness. She found people online that had said nice things about her on Instagram. She looked them up, found out where they lived, and drove around the country and dropped off Christmas gifts for these people. Well, Swiftness gifts for these people. This is a video of her doing it for one girl who's literally crying that Taylor Swift's on her doorstep. I don't want to lie. No one would ever cry if I went on the doorstep. And there's a reason that this works. It's because Taylor Swift is all about intimacy. Taylor Swift lets you into stuff. She cares about also in all seriousness, she tries to make everything look really beautiful too. She has like her dancers and stuff will wear extravagant costumes and do cool stuff like that. Like it's all part of the game for her. And she's done 3 different genres for this to work. Here are examples of a company doing it. Sales Loft does this thing. They're a Lover brand where they go around and they talk about loving salespeople. They talk about loving their employees. They go and they did the same thing. They went to they go to a company and they dropped off gifts and did a little luncheonware with them and they surprised them. They literally stole from Taylor Swift's playbook. You know what's funny? I made this presentation before Taylor Swift came out with her album Lover, by the way. Like I was ahead of the curve on this. There's a blog post. You can check the date on leadiq.com about Taylor Swift being a Lover brand. And it was before Lover even was announced. But that's kind of the point that I'm getting at is you can pick one of these brand archetypes and this is how it impacts you. Notice Kyle saying we love salespeople with their cold calls and their headsets and their cadences. That's all part of the game. They're literally trying to, I'm not calling Kyle out saying he's doing something wrong. I'm saying Kyle's sticking to an archetype and it's smart. So let's do another one and give you another example of this because I'm trying to give you guys, someone said, Nico said facts, every song is a better ex. Literally, she's talking about love in her songs, right? I'm talking about love with you guys right now. I told you I would get teary-eyed. What am I doing? All right, let's do this one. So let's do this ad. You see this ad. May all your encounters start with the law start with the words nice Harley. What brand archetype do you think this fits into? Yeah, I also hope that she gets her scarf back from Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm with you, Anthony. What do you guys think? The Rebel, Vince said. Thank you, Vince. Vince already got it right away. So you guys, no one else needs to participate. Vince just slam dunked us, basically. So this is literally a Rebel brand, right? Harley Davidson makes motorcycles. Everybody here knows that Harley's known for motorcycles, but there are tons of motorcycle brands out there. Indians and Explorer brands. So the Indian ads that they might make for Indian motorcycles might be someone driving like on a road that's never been discovered before. If you go and look at Ducati makes motorcycles, they try to go high end. BMW makes motorcycles, they do the high end, the leader, the King brand. You start going through these different cycles of things when you're doing your post online. You could literally be a Rebel archetype. And I'll give you an example of this. Another example would be Apple. I know everyone likes to do Apple as an example, so don't roll your eyes. I'm not an Apple fanboy. I'm just telling you how it is. Back in the day, when Steve Jobs left Apple, I had the pleasure of sitting next to a woman that ran the agency relationships at Apple on a flight. I was going down to San Mateo to do training with a sales team, and I was on a flight. And they bought me first class because they were a travel company, and I was sitting next to her, and I just talked to her for like an hour about this. What happened was when Steve Jobs left, they surveyed and said, why are people still buying Apple computers? Because very few were buying Apple. And what they found out was all these people were sticking with Apple computers, even though their product quality had gone down. This is like early 2000s, because they wanted to challenge the status quo. They didn't want to have a PC. And so they basically rolled out the Think Different campaign, which is literally breaking a grammar rule, by the way. It should be Think Differently. It's it's grammatically incorrect, but they did that intentionally. This is a picture that they ran ads on it when Steve Jobs came back of him flicking off IBM from the 70s. By the way, if anyone works here from IBM, I'm not crapping on IBM, they're also a great brand. They're the Sage brand. And guess what their tagline is? Think. So that's kind of what they're doing. They're challenging the status quo here. And they literally have the rainbow apple with the different, this is before they were doing the gay pride stuff that you'd see on Gay Pride Month. They were doing the rainbow logo to try and show color in the logo to juxtapose them with all the other companies that were out there. And it worked people started coming over to them and buying things. And eventually they launched products that were very different looking, and they tried to innovate in every second that they could. If you're a rebel brand, you want to challenge the status quo when you do your post. I'm going to give you a good example. Anyone here ever follow Bray online? He's a pretty respected sales trainer, great content. This is an old picture of him because he does not have long hair like this anymore. But if you guys follow Corey, shout out in the comments. Someone said no, they are a lifestyle. Lifestyle actually isn't a brand archetype though. Oh, I get what you're making the Harley Davidson thing. That's really funny, actually. I love that. That's really funny. Sorry, I'm lame. So Bray is a good example. Corey went to a conference. I was at this conference and I talked to him. And he wrote after the conference, can we stop having people in their 50s and 60s give millennial presentations at conferences? This is literally an example of a rebel post. It blew up. Look how many likes Corey got. 321 likes, 290 comments, people jumping in. I was one of the people that liked it because I felt the same way. And you know what happened? Corey was able to take all these engagements and cold call and cold email them and ask if they wanted to either buy his book or do training with him. And that's a great trigger that can start things for Corey that he can act off of. And Corey does this all the time. Like, he's constantly doing stuff that's challenging the status quo. And it's something that makes him really special. So how do you want to be seen? Homework for you guys on this is try and write down some words that you think you want to associate and pick one. Someone asked if you could do two. Now, you can do two, but you're gonna hurt your possibility to appeal to that person. All 12 of these are correct. None of us are turned off by any of these 12. Like, there's things like, for example, I sometimes get annoyed with people doing the like, we're the best, look how much money I made, commission, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's annoying to me. I wouldn't do that. But like, there's a different way to do the best brand if you want to do it. You could do it more like Muhammad Ali or something. So like we want you to pick an archetype, and this is how we want you to post stuff. Oh, sorry, one second. What collection? Okay, sorry. What are the collection of 12 personalities called? They're called brand archetypes. So you could actually go back. I'm trying to go back a slide. So these are them. I can share these slides with all of you after too, so you guys have a copy of it. So if you're like frantically trying to write these all down, you can steal it. We also have a blog post that we wrote on Lead IQ that has the 12 that you can look at. It's a little dated with the graphics, but it gets the job done. So the reason I'm telling you guys about these brand archetypes is the first part of doing responsible and successful social selling is you want to build your brand, because if you build your brand, you can take the interactions that you have and you can prospect those people. And even if they're not your target market, maybe you have limited territory and you're not allowed to go after those target accounts, you can still ask them for introductions and stuff. And that's kind of the magic here of what you can do with this. So now that you can build your brand with content, you need to make content. So what I recommend is don't do posts that's pitching your product or service. If you don't have business acumen in the area that you sell in, listen to some podcasts, follow other people in the space, listen to what they're doing. Don't go and post about NFTs if your company has nothing to do with NFTs. Don't go like babbling about machine learning and blockchain if you don't do anything with machine learning or blockchain. Don't talk about sales unless you're selling to sales reps. Like, unless you're trying, like if you're trying to get a job somewhere, it's a lot easier for you to post and be a thought leader in your space. You'll get a much higher paying job being a thought leader in your space and posting distinguished and unique content in that area than you will just talking about how good you are at sales. And that's kind of a good way to look at it. So use your brand archetype, pick it, use it like a compass. You want to create, but you also want to be mindful to participate in content. I try to go on, this is why I said 30 minutes a week, block off time of your calendar to just go through some posts of your prospects. You can hit that follow button on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and click into their profiles and look at recent social activity if you want. Don't post links to your company stuff. That's an easy one. It's because LinkedIn will punish you in the newsfeed. If I put a link to I just put the webinar on here. I bet you if you look at my post on the webinar that I just posted on my LinkedIn profile, it has way less engagement than my last 10 posts before that. And it's because I posted a link. LinkedIn wants you to stay on LinkedIn. And the last part, and we're going to go into this, is create user-generated content. And this is one of the superpowers that we all have. So I will share the slides with you guys too. Okay. One question that someone had is the archetype to pick is by company brand or by individual. I'm telling you, this is my controversial take. You need to have an individual brand. And that brand doesn't change when you change companies, by the way. Like, you should pick a brand for yourself that's different from your company. Because people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. As a company at Lead IQ, we try to be the gesture brand and we try to entertain you with our stuff. We do a talk show called B2B Tonight. We have a podcast. We make jokes, we make silly videos and stuff, right? We might go do that stuff, but not everybody at Lead IQ is a gesture. One person's a sage brand. One person's a friend and will help you out and get in the trenches and show you how to do stuff. You want to pick something that fits you, that makes you feel comfortable, that's still helpful. You remember, you're still giving value to your customers and stuff. So that's kind of how I'd answer that one. We will definitely show these slides, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to talk about media friend theory, and this is why you need to post every 6 days. Besides LinkedIn's algorithms rewarding people that post every 6 days, I just did a podcast with Adam Weitzman, who works at DocuSign. He used to work at LinkedIn and Salesforce, right? So I posted this on Monday. When you do things out there on social media, your whole point of putting and posting content out there is when you post content out there, you want to make it so that they see you regularly. And the reason is because there have been studies that show that if you see someone regularly, you feel like you know them. In fact, there was a survey done by the University of New Hampshire in the early 90s. They did a survey when Johnny Carson was retiring. They called people and said, hey, how are you feeling about Johnny Carson retiring? Carson hosted the Tonight Show for over 30 years. It was in people's television sets for years and beat everybody. Like, he never got passed in ratings too often by other late night shows. At 11 p.m., it was Carson's hour and everybody in America watched. When Carson retired, they asked people how they felt about Johnny Carson retiring. And some people compared it to feeling like a parent had died. Like they did a sentiment of asking how you felt about it, and then did another survey where they did it. And what they found is that if you're constantly exposed to somebody and you hear them, you eventually feel like they're your friend. This is called media friend theory. So what you can do is use your prospecting to create opportunities to go out and get yourself out there. So if I don't have anything to say this week, I might go and email someone. And if they say, hey, I'm not interested, I'd be like, hey, I totally get it. I might try to overturn the objection with a cold call. And if they say no, I'd be like, hey, listen, totally get it, you're not interested. I think you made some good points about some stuff. What are your thoughts on maybe hopping on and recording a quick Zoom call and we could throw it up on LinkedIn? I think you got a lot of cool stuff to say. All you do is ask them one question, record it with Zoom. I mean, what are we doing it right here? How bad would it be, Sam, if you didn't hit record and you're like, oh, crap. I was just thinking of that. But anyway, like, hit record and riff off for 5 minutes with the person and then post it on social and tag them. You just found yourself a way to get in your newsfeed. When you tag them, you'll get into their followers' newsfeed. And if you give them the content independently on Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever you're using for your file management, they can post it natively on their social too. And these people are trying to get jobs. They're trying to build their brand. I know for a fact that most Fortune 100 companies, they literally hire publicists to help get the executive team out there so that they can rep their brand and talk about stuff. And you'll be surprised how little people will say no to this to you. I used to do this in the networking space. So I used to sell managed DNS, and I would sell to IT people. And these are people that like hiss at light and don't want to talk to a sales rep. I started a group on LinkedIn called the DNS High Roller Society. And all I did is I took anybody that worked at a company that managed a network of a website that was a top 10,000 website. They were invited into the group, and I would interact with these people and post content. I'd record podcasts, and I was doing this as a BDR. And what was cool is I would go do these things with these people, and I'd build relationships with them. And then they would, whenever DNS came up, they're like, oh, you should go talk to Ryan. And I was known as that guy that like you could talk to about this stuff. And I didn't put my deal first. And I just kind of built this out. And it got to a point where like I was transitioning into a role in marketing at my company. And I had to get 11 opportunities in 1 week to hit quota. And I was able to do it just navigating people from that group. So you can, LinkedIn groups are kind of dead now. I think they're not as popular. And a lot of you probably know this because you used to be in the Sales Hacker group. Now we're doing stuff more in the community that they have, which is great. But you can do this too. Build a little bit of a community on this stuff. So that's kind of how I'd answer the like, that's how I think about this. So you want to find excuses to come up every 6 days. That person says they're not interested. A lot of the people that I had on my podcast are people that told us they weren't interested in Lead IQ. And you know what happens is I do a podcast with them. We laugh, we get to know each other. And then about, I don't know, call it 4 or 5 months later, they come inbound in my inbox saying, hey, we're ready to do a demo or a contract set. So that's kind of part of the magic that you can do here on this end. Now, you're probably thinking this takes a lot of work. It doesn't. That 30 minutes a week, those 30 minutes could be the time you're doing an interview with someone. Here are things that you can share with your audience for content. I probably have a list of these things. So we'll talk about this in a second, but here's a list of things you can do. You can share stories you've heard from customers. You cold call someone to give you a really good objection. Be curious, ask them a follow-up question. And then don't disclose their information online unless you get permission, but tell that story. Like, hey, I just heard a customer solve this problem this way. Thought it was kind of unique. I have a perfectly good example of this. During a storm, when Hurricane Sandy came to the East Coast of the United States many years ago, one of the companies I was prospecting, I called into prior to Hurricane Sandy, and they told us that their data center was in a place that would flood, and that they were using load balancing to send traffic to a different data center so they could avoid it when there were weather outages. I wrote a post about that on LinkedIn, and it was one of my most viewed posts at that time. I mean, many years ago, obviously, too. But that's kind of how to think. That was like 5 or 6, I don't know when Sandy happened, 2012, 13. But you can like tell that story as a post. It's just text. It's easy to do. So one question someone said is, would you talk about something with them that's related to what your company sells? Sort of. So here's the thing. No one cares about your features, right? Features don't sell. Impact sells. So when you're selling stuff, focus on the areas that wrap around that impact. At my old company, at Dime, we were selling you on website speed and reliability, availability, keeping your website up. Every second that a company's website goes down, they're not making money. So we would go and find content and dig up and cherry pick stories about how people were keeping their websites up. One of those solutions was us, obviously. But if they told something about a competitor, I didn't care. It's a cool solution. You mention it. Your competitor might even come in and comment and like on it. Then you know what happens? Your post goes into their connections feeds on LinkedIn, and now that your competitors' connections are seeing your post from your company. And if you need help from that stuff, all you have to do, you can even ask your marketing department to help with this. It's not that hard, but you can create a nice little inbound pipeline for yourself doing this stuff. So here's how you can get people to see your content. The first thing is, if you're starting with no one, you want to do something with someone else to get in front of their network. So the way that LinkedIn works is, if I do a post and I tag someone else on it, don't just spam tag, obviously. If I make a post and I do something with someone else and they comment or engage with it, they will put my stuff with my recent connections, my recent engagements, their recent engagements, and their connections. And that's all it takes to get in front of an audience. People will see that, they'll poke in, they'll look at my profile, they'll add me. It's that simple. And what's great is I have people I'm connected with, and I don't even know how I'm connected with them sometimes. And I'll message them, be like, hey, blah, 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 what's up? And you know how many people get back to me and say, oh, I once saw you do that thing with Aaron Ross, or I saw you do that thing with Sam Nelson from Outreach. Like, things like that would happen in these conversations, and that's how it starts. So you kind of build these little wins. If you do one a week, your audience will grow on LinkedIn over time, and you'll be more recognized, and it'll help you get that stuff out there. Another thing you can do is, if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can actually take a first degree connection. You can see that person's connections, and you can actually build out a prospect list. Obviously, that's where Lead IQ comes in. You could build a prospect list of your prospects' connections, capture them with Lead IQ, and then go prospect those people and ask them to be in content with you too. If they are in content with you, you can actually infiltrate an entire network to get in there. The other thing is, we have a group in Slack that we made called Social. And anytime that an employee here at Lead IQ does a post, we put it in Social. We ask our employees to come in and like and engage and comment. And the comments aren't just like, oh, I agree. Like, they're real editorial comments. We've literally had employees argue with each other about something on a post. And some of those posts get the most engagement online because people want to jump in and add their opinion and stuff. So ask your employees to help each other. We also have what I call like a little web break. Back in the day before search engines existed, we're talking like 94, 95. Some of us might have had a GeoCities Pokemon website. I'm really embarrassed. Don't laugh at me. I see you're all laughing. But I used to have a web brink of people that I would link to, and they'd link to me. Sometimes we just ask people. I got a group of people that I message and say, hey, you want to share a post together? And they'll help each other. So if you have friends in your space, partners, customers that are really loyal, maybe you can make a little group message thing on LinkedIn where you guys can help each other with your posts and stuff. And don't spam tag. I get spam tagged all the time. It bums me out. But you can just write a message like, hey, Ryan, want to do share this? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Because I know this person will come back and share something for me sometime. So how do you make content contagious? This is really important. I'm stealing this from an author. Jonah Berger wrote a book called Contagious, and he ran a study on how to actually do stuff to get people to share things. Oh yeah, by the way, so Sebastian made a point. What happened to just be yourself? What I'm saying is when you pick a brand archetype, the exercise that you pick for that brand archetype, you should be yourself. That's super, super important. You are the differentiator when you actually do prospecting. So I'm not telling you not to be someone you're not. The thing is, we're all 12 of those archetypes. That's kind of the difference. Like we're all those things at different points. Sometimes I'm a caregiver. Sometimes when I'm with my dog, for example, I'm a caregiver. I'll do anything for my dog. If I'm doing something online. But the idea is that an archetype that you have allows you to have a consistent guideline of what you want to be. So back to making consistent content or contagious content. These are kind of the 6 things that you can do to make your content potentially have more eyeballs on it with the content you make. First is social currency. The idea behind this is that if I share something that's cool or interesting, other people will think it's cool and interesting, and they're more likely to share it. That's kind of the idea. You pass on social currency through the things that you're sharing. Number 2 is triggers. So if you can come up with a trigger, I'll give you an example. If I say Philadelphia, what do you all think of? What are foods that you think of in Philadelphia? Let's get a little bit more specific. In chat, anybody? Cheesesteak. Cheesesteak's a perfectly good example. Jonah Berger's book Contagious talks about how there was this company, this steakhouse that opened, and they were trying to attract people to come to the steakhouse. Problem was they were right near the strip where Geno's and the other iconic places. Anthony's going to hate me because I only know Geno's, but I'm sure there's other ones too. Pat's is the other one I was thinking about. So there was a really famous there was a steakhouse that launched and no one was going to it. And they're like, how do we attract people to go to the steakhouse? Oh, I got an idea. Let's put a food truck in front of the steakhouse and offer $100 cheesesteak. And what did that do? Well, it made a bunch of people talk about it, saying, you got to try this $100 cheesesteak. And they put like crazy stuff on it: gold flakes, caviar, lobster, steak, cheese. It got picked up everywhere. It was on Letterman. It was shared everywhere on all these places. And people actually talk about when they heard about Philadelphia for about a whole summer. Anytime someone brought up Philadelphia, the trigger was, oh, did you hear about that $100 cheesesteak there? And that became a story. That's an example of trigger. If I say peanut butter, what do you all think of? In chat, you can say that. What do you think of when I say peanut butter? Yeah, jelly, right? I like Jif, interesting little brand, but yeah, jelly's a really good example of this. Peanut butter and jelly go hand in hand. Peanut butter cups are good too. So that's what you want to do. Emotions. So posts that are usually either angry, happy, friendly, sad. Do you want to avoid sad with posts? Sad posts don't do well. I don't know why. It's just what it says in the book. Sad posts, they did studies and saw that posts that were sad produced less. Public is another example. So you need to have your things public. If you have your post private, if you're not sharing things online, no one's going to see it. You have no chance of building an audience. The most important one for sales reps, I think, and the easiest one that we can all do are the last 2: practical value and stories. If you can tell people about practical value, if you can give people practical value, you're way more likely to build an audience. And same with stories. So if you want to, by the way, you can add me on LinkedIn and I can show you this. So let's talk about what happens when your prospect interacts with your content. What do you do? So I'm going to assume that the person's not connected with you. Now, if you want to have an effective LinkedIn connection request with someone, the first thing I would do is I would mention how you noticed the person or how you found them. And it can't be generic. You want to be as specific as possible. So like if I said, hey, Ryan, I noticed your role as a VP of marketing, that's a trash personal message on LinkedIn. If I'm sending a personal message to someone on LinkedIn, I might say something unique like, hey, Ryan, saw you're in Chicago. I'm a big fan of Pequod's. It's my favorite deep dish pizza. Want to connect with you. I'm going to shoot you an email in a second. And that's right around the character limit that you can say on these posts. It's different enough. If it's a well-known person at the company that has an audience and builds and does stuff on social, mention a piece of content that they did. Hey, blah, blah, blah. I saw that you posted about XYZ topic. Thought it was really interesting. Wanted to connect up on here. That's all you have to do. And don't jump into the pitch right away. That's not the goal. What I like to do is build the relationship and nurture it on LinkedIn and then do my pitching off, not on LinkedIn, but with email and phone. So let's ask this question. Have you gotten an opportunity from interacting on social media? I'm interested to see this. Thank you, by the way, Sam, for hitting the button for me.
Of course.
Look at this. So we're getting some people. We're floating in around 57% have said yes, 43% are saying no. So that's easiest thing I can give you for a tip on this stuff is you want to focus. All right, let's keep going. I guess that's good. 61% is good. So 56% have said yes, 44% have said no. So one of the things that I think people make the mistake of is when they're actually doing stuff on social, they're oh, sorry, I meant to hit share results. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to block that. One of the mistakes they do is they put a post up on social and then they sell to the person immediately. So I'll give you an example. I did a post about how when you pick up your phone and you make content, I filmed a video of my dog Finnegan running across the dog park to Chariots of Fire in slow motion. He's a corgi. He's very cute, by the way. And I talked about why you should, if you find content in your life that's interesting, you should use it in your prospecting. So I posted this and I had 84 likes. Now, I could go add these people on LinkedIn and then sell to them immediately, but they're going to be annoyed and be like, why did I add this person? I shouldn't have done that. But if I take this person and I click on the likes and I go build a prospect list, I can then go tag them. I can go write an email to them and mention that I saw they like my video. If I do that on email, I'll be like, hey, I saw you like my video. I assume you like dogs. I might be, I know dogs are really smart and have to do a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, reps are a lot smarter than dogs and need to do a lot more work. You have to relate the personalization to the value proposition that you're pitching in your video when you're doing stuff or pitching something. Another thing you can do is if I got tagged on a post for like, hey, who's a good person that can help me with workflow for prospecting? I'm not going to go sell them on the comments, be like, happy to help you. Let's talk. No, I'm going to comment and be like, hey, I'll shoot you an email. And then I'll just literally go grab their email from something, whatever you're using. Hopefully it's LeadIQ, but you can use whatever you want. I'm going to write an email to them. I'm going to personalize it. And I'm going to reference the thing that started the original conversation. So these are the 4 ways to make good outreach when someone interacts with your post. The first is, why are you contacting me? This is usually the thing that happened on social that triggers this. The second thing is, how is the person special to you? Why is that person important to you? And that usually isn't just company information. That is specifically that person individually. What is unique about them that makes you want to reach out to them? The third piece of this puzzle is, who are you? This is your value prop. You have 1 sentence, 2 sentences max to get this information across. And what do you want me to do with this message? That's another part of this too. So you want to be able to share that information. You need a CTA. I recommend not asking for 15 minutes. We just did a Rate My Pitch webinar yesterday, me and John Barrows did, where we were looking at cold emails from people. Everybody's asking for 15 minutes. At this point, internal employees would never ask you for 15 minutes for a meeting, so you want to try and simulate it like that. Best way to end an email, I think, is, what are your thoughts? How does that sound? Or you ask a specific open-ended question. But you want to lead with the relationship first, and that's kind of a key part here. So you can personalize off a profile. These are areas that I look for when I'm doing stuff reading a profile on LinkedIn. I look at where they live. I look at who they're connected with, who we have in common that we're connected with, what experiences I might have had with someone that I think that they might know. Now, we randomly add people all the time on LinkedIn, so like it might not be a real deep relationship. See if you can see someone they regularly interact with or something on their social activities. I look at their recent social post. If they're posting stuff and it's not just company stuff, that's usually a much better prospect for me to break into. They're probably more friendly. They're more involved in the community. And you can editorialize the thing that they wrote in their social post in a cold email or a cold call. If I open up an email and say, if I open up a cold call and say, hey, blah, blah, do you have a few minutes to talk? Hey, let me jump in and just start selling to you. No, it's not going to be as good. But if I jump in and say, hey, blah, blah, I saw you did this post yesterday on account-based selling. I think it's really important to do account-based selling. Can I talk to you for a couple minutes about that post and some other stuff that's going on and how we might be able to help? That's going to be a much better conversation with the person on a cold call. The other thing you can do is look at the jobs the company posts in their department. If you're building your audience and following the things that I taught you at the beginning of this webinar with brand archetypes and stuff, you're going to slowly build an audience of people that are like you, of your customers that you're trying to break into, right? Well, one thing that you can give to every prospect that you're trying to break into is offer to share their blog post, offer to share their job post. You know a bunch of people that they might want to hire. That's literally what your network's going to be built up. So if you cold email someone and say, hey, blah, blah, I want to work with you, obviously. I noticed you guys are hiring X. I can put the job posting up for you on social if you want. Do you want me to tag you? And you just ask that in an email or a call. they're gonna be like, holy crap, yeah, I appreciate that. It's really nice. And now you're building some goodwill and giving to your prospect and leveraging the network you just built. After that, you want to do recommendations. You can do interest in schools. Schools are a little overdone, I think, at this point, unless it's relevant to you. If you have an experience at that school, you can talk about it. And then previous companies they work at, maybe something interesting there. Someone, some stories there. You can tell a story about it. So the last part of this, and this is kind of what I wanted to show you guys, is a new thing that we've been experimenting with. We did this last year, where we're now making videos for prospects and putting them online with our audience. So for example, I wanted to break into LogMeIn last year. And I was like, man, I would love to break into LogMeIn. Let me put a post up on my social and I'll tag LogMeIn. I'm not going to tag a specific prospect, but I'm going to make a video about this. And I made it just for LinkedIn video. Let's take a look. I'm hoping the sound works on this. If it doesn't, you can all yell at me like you're done. But let's see if it works. Cool. So this was the post. I said, not going to lie, for the past few companies I've worked at, I've used tons of products made by the fine folks at LogMeIn. I respect their team, love their presence in the Boston area just south of me. Unfortunately, I even had a chance to work with them at LeadIQ. So anyway, I did this video with them where I posted it, and I asked people if you knew anyone at LogMeIn to tag them.
LeadIQ and a set LogMeIn sales team. The following is an addition tape produced by LeadIQ and a sad attempt to prospect LogMeIn sales team. The branding, pitch, and video were strictly made without LogMeIn's notice, consent, or awareness. LeadIQ apologized in advance for what you're about to see. LogMeIn did not ask us to make this. We don't blame them.
Hi, I'm Rhino Heroes, unofficial spokesperson for LogMeIn. Now listen, sometimes you just don't know how to do things. I never learned how to ride a bike, I can't tie my shoes, and I certainly don't know how to read. But the good news is, there are companies out there that care about helping people and walking them through things remotely. And that's one of my favorite parts about using LogMeIn. LogMeIn will not only walk you through all your IT issues by allowing IT teams to do remote access and helping you finish things and do things together to collaborate. They also allow you to do video conferencing and talk with people and throw webinars and parties and happy hours and all those things that I wish I could be invited to, but I never learned how to read the email. So if you're someone that wants to get better and improve your life, you should use LogMeIn. LogMeIn. I'm in.
Following the filming of this audition, Rhino Heroes was removed from the premises and barred from ever auditioning again.
Yeah, so we just make little silly videos there, but if I actually look at the post and I click into who watched, I can't see it anymore because it's been over a year, but if I go look at who watched the video, we actually ended up getting over 1,200 people from LogMeIn watching this video, and people just started tagging people that worked at LogMeIn. So I started, well played, and we ended up booking a meeting from this. So Katie then called Abe and talked to him and said, hey, I saw you like the video, and we were able to start a conversation with this person. Some of these people are no longer at LogMeIn that commented on this, but they were at the time that we did this. So you could actually do a lot of these things to make a difference and be unique in the way that you're prospecting. Thank you for the tux. That tux is the compliment on the tux. We do have a question. How much time to research each prospect and craft the outreach for emails and video? Well, this is a good one. I do this thing called the 10-minute game, and people that follow me already probably have heard me talk about this 100 times, so I apologize. When we have new reps come in, we set a timer on their computer. You can just Google 10-minute timer, hit start. Your rep has 10 minutes to find the prospect, find something to personalize, write the email or do whatever they're going to. I would always email first, then do a call second. Write the email or write the message and send it. And what's cool is if you give them a 10-minute timer, no interruptions, they'll get muscle memory and they can trim that down to 8. Then they trim it down to 6. Then they trim it down to 5. And so instead of reaching out to 6 prospects with personalized messaging an hour, eventually becomes 12. And 12 eventually becomes 24. That's what you can do. You can leverage that stuff. So let's get back to takeaways for a second here. I do want to make sure that we finish this up because we're getting near the end. Big takeaways are pick one brand archetype and use it as a compass to guide you for your online brand. Number 2 is participate in content and build business acumen in your area. Listen to podcasts from your industry. Listen to what leaders and other people are doing. Number 3 is make content with others to increase your reach. Don't just talk about your product or service. No one cares. Let marketing worry about that stuff. Your job is to be a face of the company, carry the baton, and help people in the market with solutions and connecting people. Ask prospects to do content with you to build a relationship. Reach out and interact with those people, and always give more than take. That's kind of the big takeaway on this thing. So here's what we're going to do. If you'd like, we didn't really get to tackle what to put in your LinkedIn profile, but if you pick an archetype and you rewrite your LinkedIn profile, send over your new LinkedIn profile after you rewrite it to writemypitch@leadiq.com. And me, Anthony, Maz, a couple people here at work at LeadIQ, some of the people that have been trained on this, we're going to look at your profile. We'll give you some tips on how to make your profile better for prospecting and getting people to get to know you a little bit more. So just wanted to thank everyone for coming. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Sales Hacker, for having us.